jump to an electro freeze machine here. Right barrel. You hear that? Right barrel just pulled down to 0. But that's air. That's way too much air. Let's pull this side off. Let's see what the refrigerant charge says. What's weird is I would think if we were short on charge, they were pulling down. She should have shut off by this point. That's interesting. Normally she pulls down to -2 and then back on at 17, and this one is -5. I don't think so. Opposite, I can tell you from looking at it, all air. How do we end up with all air? So, the number one way to end up with all air is to not have a ductbill. Because if you don't have a ductbill, then every time the unit shuts off, realize it runs uphill. So every time the unit shuts off, this hose bleeds back into the mix, air, and then pumps air into the barrel. So watch what happens when I put a ductbill in and we purge out all that crazy mix. So do you grasp it? You can't freeze air. So you may make that barrel 0 degrees, but the ratio of air, you know, if it's supposed to be 12% air, you got 60% air, you don't have any mix. You got no ice cream. The only way to properly do it is put a ductbill in. And now, I'm basically, we turned it off, let's turn the meter on. I have emptied the mix. I want everything that's in there out. See how it's all pocky? I know this is a giant waste of product, but this product is wasted anyway, because you can't serve it to people. And no, you cannot put it in the cooler, melt it down, and then use it again. There we go. So now, we've got a mix. Let's put it back in freeze. Now see what we get. Okay, so all of the last videos were useless. I couldn't use them because it was so loud. You couldn't tell that people were talking, they were busy. So I just figured I'm not going to try and dub over it. I'll just give you the what for. That barrel, mechanically, the product still came out too soft. And then from a temperature perspective, it was about 20 degrees. And you want, that product needs to come out 17 degrees, between 16 and 17 degrees. So we were at 20. But my temperature swings were good, right? I would go 17, -2, 17, -2, but my product was still 20. So I hooked up my gauges to it, and I was running like 12 PSI on the low side, which is way too low. You want to be, some people will tell you 18, some people will tell you 22. I put them at about 22. So that's 10 below, 12 below. If you're running a 22 suction pressure, then you're running 10 to 12 below. I adjusted the TXV to achieve 22. You saw in the last video that was useful. Sight glass was clear. My pressures were spot on. It's a water-cooled system. I mean, my head pressure was in line, clear sight glass, 22.5 PSI on the suction. And then I was pulling down, no problem, and my product temperature started to dip. So we did get the product temps down to like 17. So we were right at 17, 16.8, 17. But I still felt like it was a little soft. At that point, mechanically, there's nothing more I can do for them. What they need to find out is, are the scraper blades in good shape? Are we getting a good scrape on the edges, right? That's a round barrel. It's freezing the edges. And then we have 2 scraper blades in there that are scraping the frozen edges, and then the auger mixes it all together to give us the consistency. We have good overrun, which means our air levels are proper. We have good temperature. We have good pressure. If we don't have good consistency, we need to check the blades at that point and see what's going on. There is another possibility, which unfortunately could be for this operator, but they moved this machine. This was a machine purchased from a different operator. It was very abused and not taken care of in its previous location. But when they moved it here, they moved it themselves. They moved it with a van. So they laid it on its back, brought it over, bang, stood it up, you know, and I can tell you for sure we were working on the right barrel of that unit. The left barrel of that unit always is flooding back. It's not a TXV problem. We are getting a good barrel full of refrigerant, and it's not boiling off. It's not transferring. There's no heat transfer happening in the barrel, and then the product always comes out liquidy. Well, make sense of that. There's no heat transfer. The coil that was tarred and strapped to that evaporator is broken loose. So you don't have good, consistent contact anymore, which leads to that problem. That's super unfortunate because there's no fixing it. There is a way to analyze it. You can deduce that by pulling the face off, tripping the magnet so it will go into a freeze, putting it in freeze, and then blowing in it. And you should see frost pattern of the coil all the way around. I guarantee you won't on the left. So hopefully that's not what it is on the right as well. Hopefully we can put some new blades in and be good. But just wanted to catch up to you because that was like, either I don't use the video or I have to dub over those 6 videos that are just, that never works. It's terrible. Or I get a chance to say hi and show you that I'm growing my beard out. So, see you later.